Hi, everyone. How are you doing? I guess my time has begun. I should get going, right? I guess I don't have to repeat the introduction. My name is Muyambi, so it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for traveling from far and beyond to join us. We are happy to have you. You talked about smart cities in great detail, but I would just want to make sure that we are all on the same page. I think smart cities are key, but I think we have to keep in mind that there are also rural areas, right? And it's important to keep an eye on that, because as we talk about the digital divide, it only worsens if we don't pay attention to the rural areas. So as I talk through this, that's going to be the theme, and the hope that when you walk out of here, you won't just be focused on cities, but that you look beyond the cities as well. So just so we are all on the same page again on what smart cities is, in my view, or in a lot of people's views, smart cities is where you combine data and technology and actually leverage that to have an impact around the communities you're trying to help. At the end of the day, it's about improving people's lives. If you're not, then whatever you're doing, however smart it is really not meeting the need of the people in that community. So, given that introduction that I'm from TMT team, you can guess what I'm going to be talking about, right? Yes, technology and connectivity. So within smart cities, there's a lot of pillars around smart cities, as you can imagine. And connectivity is one that brings all of them together, right? You can talk about health in terms of telemedicine. You can talk about your Uber. You probably took a Lyft coming here, but all of that will not be possible without connectivity. So connectivity is one thing, but there's also cybersecurity upon which all of this lies. If you don't have confidence in the connectivity, in the data that you're putting out there, you probably won't be very comfortable letting people use your data. And really what smart cities is all about is data, and making sure that that data is safe, settled, secure is an important aspect. So cybersecurity is really much the foundation. So now that I've established this playing field and this knowledge base, the question is, in terms of connectivity, what does that look worldwide? So let's look at, I actually had a quiz for you guys, but I just showed you the answers, so you're off the hook. But one quick question, why do you think the connections are higher than the population? Oh, sounds like I still have a question that's actually worth answering. Anybody want to? So as you can see, the connections are higher than the population, because if you come from places, not even just Uganda, right? Even here in the US, people have more than one cell phone, right? You have your work cell phone, you have your personal, you separate the two. And so you find that the connections will always be, not always, but in this case, they are higher than the population itself. And when we look at the technology mix of what people are using to get online, to get access to the internet, you're looking at three major right now, right? You're looking at 2G, 3G, 4G. And to my surprise, 4G is a huge part of how people get online nowadays. I thought, you know, since if you take Africa, for example, that's a huge part of this segment is that, you know, 2G would be higher, but 4G surprisingly. But if you look into 2025, then 5G, actually 4G would even be higher, but 5G will start to show up. And why are we really talking about this? Is why am I talking about 4G, 5G? I think the answer will come later, so I just want to keep you interested enough not to fall asleep, but I'll get into why 5G is really important. So now that we've taken this, you know, bird's eye view, let's get into a little bit into what it means in terms of continents. It's a little hard to read, but there are three key things to think about when you think about connectivity worldwide. One is coverage gap, the next is usage gap, and then connected. So if you look at coverage gap. I don't know if anybody knows what that is and wants some brownie points to tell us what it is, but it's basically that you might have a footprint of mobile broadband, but a lot of people don't even have access to that. And by that, easily, I'm saying there are towers, not too many people are close to towers. But there's also people who are close to towers, but actually don't use the internet. And that's the usage gap. And there are people who are close to towers and can actually use the data from towers and all of that. So this is really important, because for the entrepreneurs out there, you can look at these numbers and say, hey, this location doesn't have, has a really low usage gap, coverage gap, so I'm going to move my business around that and kind of figure out how to meet that need. So once again, we are going back to that 5G conversation, because it's so important in terms of how it connects to smart cities, because of the usage cases. When you talk about autonomous vehicles, anybody know why those would even be feasible? Is because 5G is going to be the driver. And basically, 5G is what's going to enable a lot of interconnectedness of devices, meaning that you can, device A can talk to device B. If you're talking about IoT sensors, if you're talking about predictive maintenance, all of these small sensors that will be placed in different equipment will allow us to be connected, but also provide a base upon which smart cities can happen. So if you talk about light sensors on light poles that senses carbon emissions and air quality, you're talking about sensors that are all powered by 5G. So I want to go into the cybersecurity, because unfortunately, we're all millennials. We are happy to give away our data at the click of a button at anything. So I'm not even sure if this really applies to all of us here. But the key here is, if you think about the capex needed to power or make 5G available across the world, especially in emerging markets, it's going to be really high, because let's take Verizon in the US. Verizon spends about 17 to $18 billion a year on capex. Now, I'm not saying that's all towards 5G, but some of it is. And if you look at, for example, MTN, which is in a huge number of countries across Africa, it spends about $1 to $2 billion on capex, and that's to power 2G, 3G, 4G needs. If that number doesn't blow your mind in terms of what it's actually going to mean for our countries to catch up, then I don't know what will blow your mind, because when we talk about the digital divide, we already have a gap to meet. And now look at what 5G is going to bring in terms of another digital gap to breach. I feel like all of you young people should go out there and figure out how to make this happen, because rural areas will even be left further behind if we don't focus on them. And so who knows what this is? Oh, look at that guy. He's so good at reading. It's down there somewhere. But no, I'm kidding. He knew what it was already. It's, so this is one of the ways that people like Google, companies like Google, Facebook, all coming up with different ways to make sure that the last mile connectivity is met. And this is key because, like I mentioned, as you think about smart cities, why there's going to be a lot of congestion in smart cities. So what's the best way to move them, to move people out of smart cities? Is probably making sure that the rural areas are also very attractive. I won't get into the details of this, but this is what it would look like if you have those balloons hanging around Kenya, Peru, in terms of providing connectivity. They will be a subset of part of a larger network in terms of put it in a village where it can connect people, but at the same time, you're going to have to connect it to the major MNOs networks in the bigger cities that can enable that data to continually move around, because some of the major cities are the ones, for example, that are connected to fiber and all other sorts of technologies that enable this data to move really fast. I know I was really fast, but I'm trying to be really good with time, and I only have 9 seconds left. So I hope this was good. Thank you so much for your attention, and have fun.
Thank you very much. Now our next talk is from a power duo coming to us from the UN Office on Drugs and Crime. They will discuss an initiative that's helping chart a course forward for smarter societies. Wambui Kahara is the regional youth focal point for Eastern Africa at UNODC. She has served as Kenya's youth representative to the UN, appointed by the Kenyan government, and she established the UN Youth Delegates Program in Kenya and was one of the coordinators of the UN Joint Program on Youth. Charity Kagwi is the head of UNODC's Criminal Justice Program for Eastern Africa. She manages the project on strengthening the administration of justice and operationalizing alternatives to imprisonment, with the objective of creating a culture of integrity that values the rule of law in Kenya. Let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you. So we're going to have our presentation in 2 parts. And what I do today is just introduce a group of people who are not present today. And that group of people includes the 70% of people living in slum areas all over the world. Actually, in cities, 70% of them live in slum areas. So we are asking the question, does the smarter city concept affect these 70% of people, most of them very young? The goals that we are setting here and the dream that we are having here for a smarter, better city reach out to these people? Will there be a safe, smarter concept that will address the needs of these people? And I say, because we do come from the land where we have said that no man is impossible, nothing is impossible, we're here to discuss the concept that this is possible and that there is the concept of leave no one behind, including those living in the makeshift places, makeshift houses in the slum areas in Nairobi. We will be focusing on one small slum area, not one small slum area. Go ahead.
Thank you, Charity. Today, okay, great. You can hear me? No.
What is this?
We can't hear you. No, she just needs the mic. Yep. Okay, you can hear me now. No?
Use the podium.
Number 4.
Okay, great. So this is much better. So I will take you through the UNODC Urban Safety Governance Approach. And this is a project that UNODC is implementing. And the main objective of this program is to make sure that we are building a safe, well-governed and inclusive city by 2030. So I'll take you through this, but real quick, I just want to let you know that by 2030, we just don't want to see a smart city in our communities, but we want to see a safe city. And this project that we're doing at UNODC is to better understand how a wide set of local risks interact with external risks, and how these issues can be able to be addressed at the local level. And we will have a bottom-up approach to this project. So if you look at this diagram right now about the threats of the urban community, you can see the urban community being at the center, and you can see some of the threats, the internal threats and the local risk factors being violent extremism, maybe gang violence, drugs, local crime, and corruption. But how do we see this internal risk factors and how do they interact with the external risk factors like trafficking, illicit financial flows, and organized crime. So what we're trying to do at UNODC, maybe in the next slide, is to ensure that we have a better understanding of what the local issues are and what the local challenges are and how to prioritize issues of interventions. So we do not want to implement programs based on our own desk reviews, but we want to go to the community and establish what are their challenges and give them a platform where they can be able to come up with the solutions. The other outcome for this safety governance approach is to make sure that we are developing strategies and policies and recommendations that are inclusive and evidence-based. And what the community will tell us, we will make sure that it is inclusive, and we'll make sure that we have, it's a cross-sectoral approach where we will involve all the stakeholders that are involved. This is the law enforcement bodies. We will invite the local government, the national government, the civil society, religious leaders, and also youth organizations as well. So the next outcome that we're looking at, maybe just in the previous slide again, in the previous slide, the second slide, is the next step is the implementation of the policies. How does the local government and UN entities improve the technical and the managerial capacity? How do we build a capacity of these leaders, not only at the city level, but also at the national level? And the other objective of this program is to ensure that there's better coordination and partnerships between all stakeholders. In Nairobi, we have 70% of our population being young people under the age of 35, and 60%, over 60% of our population live in formal settlements. And today we will give you a tour to the second largest informal settlement in Kenya. But one thing and one fact to note is that over 60% of this population only live in 5% of Nairobi's land area. So you have less than 40% of our population living in 95% of Nairobi's urban area. But this is how we look at the city, and this is what we want to see in a city. We want the urban communities in the middle, but we want to see that a city that can uphold the human rights, a city that is safe, a city that has strong institution, and a city that can be able to make sure that there's sustainable development. But if you look at this circle and you look at all the aspects to it, is that the most important thing is to ensure that there cannot be sustainable development without peace, and there cannot be peace without sustainable development. So we all have to work together to ensure that we are building safe cities that can be able to make sure that we are providing the space and the opportunities for young people to grow. But how do we do this? We are using smart city solutions, technology, to make sure that we can use Internet of Things, artificial intelligence. We can use all these aspects to make sure that, imagine a city where you can be able to detect crime even before it happens, or a city where you can be able to look through an online platform and be able to map out your city and see the safety aspects of a city, where maybe your mobile phone can be able to tell you what areas are safe in real time. So we are trying to get to that, we want to get to that solution, and to make sure that we are getting the smart city solutions to safety. But for now, we will take you through a video of the neighborhood that we are implementing this. And this video is going to just give you the real situation of the neighborhood in Nairobi and see how they envision how this city and this neighborhood in Nairobi can be able to be turned into a smart city and that can be safe and resilient. This is Mathare, one of the largest and oldest informal settlements in Kenya, home to over 500,000 households and has one of the highest crime rates. 70% of Nairobi's population lives on 5% of the city's land area.
Survival is a daily struggle only reserved for the fittest. The area has widespread poverty, prostitution, and lack of basic amenities. So my name is Wambui Kahara, and today I'm in the second largest slum in Kenya, which is Mathare. Today, I'm going to take you through a small tour in Mathare to explore the community and to talk about what are the challenges and what is the hope of the young people in Mathare. How do they envision Mathare by 2030?
Never lose! My name is Austin, and you see the field here. This field, I started it about 20 years ago, and before it was a field, it was a heap of garbage. If we walk around here in Mathare, you'll see very small children entering into drugs, into violence. If they are not occupied, they do that because, you know, when you're not occupied, you have nothing to do. So you just decide to join those groups. So, you know, children did not have any place to play. So I decided by removing garbage slowly by slowly until I removed everything. So that's the time I started the field.
Mathare ilikuwa kitu mbaya sana. Kama hii mto yote hii yote kutoka pande ilikuwa ya chang'aa. Haya, hiyo chang'aa imemalizwa na vijana. Kwa hao ambao wameshikiliwa na Austin, wakawa ni watu watulivu na wamefurahia ile mpira. Hiyo mto unaiona kwenda pande ile pale mbele kidogo kulikuwa na kijiji kimoja kilikuwa kinajiita Nigeria. Kuna vitu mingi sana ambazo zilikuwa zinauzwa. Kulikuwa kunauzwa madrugs, na hiyo bado chang'aa bado wanaendelea hata kufanyia kitendo, wanakufanyia kitendo mbaya. Lakini wakati hii kulingana na organization hii yote kijiji imekuwa soba. Ibidi sibekuwa soba. Siku hizi hiyo uhalifu kubwa hakuna. Na bado tunaendelea na kumaliza uhalifu yote.
Kuna shida nyingi sana kwa sababu sio kila mzazi anaangalia mtoto. Wazazi wengi ni wale wanaenda vibarua. Huyo mtoto anaweza enda kama mto iko pale aanze kuswim. Sasa hiyo ni shida. Iko chafu kwa sababu sasa masiwe. Na unajua wanauago juu ya tuseme umeigiana na kikundi mbaya. Tuseme wengine wanashikana na waizi. Yeye ajui kuiba. Atadanganywa wewe atachukua ile simu. Kwa ni polisi. Atastukia ameshutiwa au amepigwa na ngao.
Imekuwa mingi sana. Alipatikana amekufa, amereipiwa. Hata hapa kuna mwingine alikuwa amenyongwa tu akawekwa pale kwa gunia. Mwingine alikuwa pale kwa ile kando ile ambara watoto wadogo sana kama huyu. Na ni vijana. Hata sio hadi wasichana.
Growing up, I had self-esteem issues related to my community. I was always afraid to tell people that I was from Mathare. And because whenever you mention Mathare to somebody, what comes to their mind is the...
I'm sorry, guys, we're running out of our time. But these are the young people that we're talking about. We say that there is indeed hope. And Nairobi being a hub of innovation, already they are coming up with their own solutions of online platform through WhatsApp groups, through linkages between the police and community leaders. So our pledge is to work alongside them and to also remind you guys as young people going back into your communities that this kind of approach can be done for even people living within slum areas, and that there is hope for this large population of young people who are not present here. Thank you.
Okay, one more lightning talk. You guys ready? Next up is Holti Banka, who is a finance sector specialist who also serves as the Secretariat of World Bank Youth to Youth, or Y2Y. You probably saw their booth out there. Y2Y is a community of young professionals at the World Bank Group who provide a reservoir of fresh ideas and perspectives to contribute to the World Bank Group's vision of achieving a world free of poverty. Y2Y is the largest volunteer organization at the institution. Let's put our hands together for Holti.
There were 2 clickers. Well, hello everyone. It's great to be here. When most of you go back home, we want to make sure you don't forget about the Youth Summit, all the amazing people you met, all the great and inspiring stories you heard. And therefore, I'm here to tell you about ways that you can further engage when you go back to your home countries through the largest youth platform network here at the World Bank, the Youth to Youth Network, or otherwise known as Y2Y. Before I tell you more about those ways that you can be engaged, I would like to share with you a short video that hopefully you find inspiring.
Question. Do you feel that? The butterflies in your stomach when you think of what you can do in this lifetime. The fire in your heart that got you where you are now.
We felt it too. This is Y2Y.
You don't need more emails, tweets, newsletters, and reports talking about action. You need to see youth in action.
We are creating the action, harnessing youthful energy, exploding around the globe. As the largest volunteer organization within the World Bank, our members, advisory board, community, sponsors, and partners support Y2Y because we generate results.
That's why we work late and get started early. We're passionate about youth and development.
We live it.
In our world, your goals are no longer your goals, they're our goals. A connected vision towards a future of empowered young people, shifting economies, bridging communities, and helping to achieve the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals.
We've matched hundreds of mentors with mentees, hosted impactful workshops and meaningful fundraisers, held pitch competitions sparking innovation, created cohorts of environmental activists and champions responding to climate issues,
dispersed over $1 million in 100 projects over 50 countries.
And we're all under 35. And we're not done.
We're sharing these because we want you to be part of us.
Created in 2004, we've matured into a deliberate, goal-oriented organization that looks like, sounds like, and is like the people we are touching, heart to mind.
You know that engaged youth is the future.
It's the lifeblood that connects positive change into the future.
You know, like we know, there's a way forward.
And it looks
like
this. We are Y2Y. We are the future.
Okay, so I hope you're also feeling the fire. As the video mentioned, Y2Y actually is the largest.
The butterflies in you.
All right, yes. So Y2Y is actually the largest volunteer community under the World Bank umbrella. It has been around since 2004. This year we celebrated our 15-year anniversary. It consists of youth for the youth. There's a steering committee of World Bank employees under 35 years old that are leading the community, supported by an advisory board of senior World Bank staff. We actually have 5 core affiliate programs that are under the Y2Y umbrella. The Youth Summit is actually one of those programs. The other ones are the mentorship one, Youth Innovation Fund, Youth Voices, and our Global Youth Climate Network. So all of them are obviously aligned with the twin World Bank goals as well as the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. Our initiatives and activities cut across different thematic areas. A lot of our programs are both internal and external facing. Today I'm just going to highlight the external facing ones, which I think are relevant for more of you, and how you can take some of those to your communities and kind of, again, sort of work with the network to implement some of those. So the first one is having some issues with the clicker. Okay. So our Global Youth Climate Network is actually the program that primarily focuses on climate-related initiatives. There is 2 flagship initiatives under GYCN. There is our Global Ambassadors Program. So what we do, basically, we recruit young people around the world that are passionate about climate initiatives, and we help them design and implement climate-related solutions that are obviously relevant for their communities and their countries. We have already launched a first round of global ambassadors. We have already 300 plus ambassadors around the world. They're doing really amazing things, from holding workshops related to climate awareness, to plugging, to beach cleaning, and so forth. So if you're interested, please get in touch with us. All these slides are going to be shared with you at some point, so you can check out our website, find our contact information, and so forth. So we'd love to hear from you and talk more about what we can do together. The other initiative is our Smart Climate Contest. So essentially, again, through GYCN, we are launching a competition around the world. We want to make sure we reach out to as many young people as possible that have great ideas about climate solutions. And in the next couple of months, we are again in the process of launching our second Smart Climate competition. So if you have ideas or if you're passionate about climate, again, please get in touch with us or get more information, and we'll be happy to have a conversation. Our mentorship program is also a flagship program of Y2Y. Historically, the mentorship program has primarily been matching mentors and mentees within the World Bank, but this year we're piloting an external component, whereas we are matching young World Bank employees under 35 years old with youth around the world in World Bank client countries that are in pursuit of mentorship, of different sorts of mentorship. So we have already launched the program in Afghanistan, in Congo, and in a number of other countries. And again, if you're part of a university or an NGO or other sort of local community that is interested in sort of partnering with us in order to apply the external mentorship, we'd love to hear from you. And last but not least, actually, maybe we can show briefly the two videos. So these are actually global ambassadors that are part of our GYCN network in Nigeria. So you can hear very briefly of their activities.
My name is Banka Olawale. I am a Global Youth Climate Network Ambassador for Lagos, Nigeria. I'm contributing to fight climate change through organizing a climate change advocacy program in community secondary schools. Enlightening the young generations will help in combating climate change. Through advocacy in schools, in community, we go a long way.
Hi, I'm Oluwatosin Molade. I am a GYCN Climate Ambassador for Nigeria. I fight climate change by plugging.
So again, so you get this gives you a bit of a flavor, right, of the kinds of activities and actions we're talking about that people, our global ambassadors, are undertaking on the ground. So there's plenty of activities that we're helping the ambassadors deal with on the ground, and I'm sure in this room there is plenty of passionate people about climate. After all, the theme of this summit has definitely interlinkages to climate ideas. Last, but we talked about mentorship. The last program I wanted to mention that, again, I think is relevant, probably relevant for a lot of you, is our Youth Voices program. Again, very external facing. What it does is essentially links young World Bank employees that work in country offices with local youth. What happens is that we engage universities in the process, we engage local governments, NGOs, and together with our young World Bank colleagues on the ground, we create initiatives that again can cut across different thematic areas. We have already established a number of country Youth Voices chapters. We are now in the process of expanding, particularly in Africa and Latin America. So again, if you're interested in that, please get in touch with us. There have been a number of very successful examples. The Lebanon country Youth Voices chapter has been doing amazing things in the space of digital technology. Likewise in Brazil, the team there that is leading the chapter is very much involved in issues pertaining to local governance. to issues pertaining to education, culture, and so forth. As a matter of fact, they took place at an international competition representing the Youth Voices chapter of Brazil. So we have definitely hosted and highlighted, a lot of those successful stories. And as I mentioned before, we are in the process of expanding. So again, would love to hear from you. Again, these are the 3 programs I wanted to highlight that are external facing. I think some of them must be very, very relevant for you. So again, we hope that you stay engaged, you'll connect with us. We'll make sure we share the slides for you, and I'm sure we'll see some of you in the reception and tomorrow during the day's activities. Thank you.